Hello. Good to see you. And tonight we're going to have a homage to the poetry of Mary Oliver. She's an American poet. Well, in fact, she died in 2018, I think it was, and she was in her 80s. She had a very difficult childhood, and she found her refuge by being outside. And her poetry was about nature and spirituality. So I'm just going to start by giving you a taste of her poetry first of all. And this is How Everything Adores Being Alive. What if you were a beetle and a soft wind and a certain allowance of time had summoned you out of your wrappings, and there you were. So many legs hardening, maybe even more than one pair of eyes, and the whole world in front of you. And what if you had wings and flew into the garden and then fell into the up-tipped face of a white flower? And what if you had a sort of mouth, a lip, to place close to the skim of honey that kept offering itself? What would you think then of the world as night and day you were kept there? Oh, happy prisoner, sighing, humming, roaming that deep cup. Well, that's an indication of the richness of her poetry and her experience. And I wrote a song in homage to her, and it does mention a number of phrases from some of her poems, and it's called The Poet Mary. I hope you like it. I always have to get that bit out first, right? As the dawn breaks over the sea, a lonely figure cuts she. But she's far from lonely, never alone in nature's treasury. She is watching white gannets dive in the sea with the power of blunt spears. When she sees the crumbling whirlwind whelks, her heart craves unwilling to be. And her pen never slept in her hand as she endlessly walked the wild land. And she wrote every sight that she saw, and she touched our hearts and made our spirits soar. Oh, 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 oh. She was the poet Mary. She was the poet Mary. All her life a bride, married to amazement. The wren in the bass notes seemed to her heaven sent. She felt the sun blaze over the hills like a million flowers on fire. She strolled deeper into the world, and her soul rose higher. And her pen never slept in her hand, as she endlessly walked the wild land. And she wrote every sight that she saw, and she touched our hearts and made our spirits soar. Oh, 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 oh. She was the poet, Mary. She was the poet, Mary. So that's a song I wrote about how Mary Oliver spent most of her life out walking with a notebook. Hi everybody, great to see you putting a comment and saying hello. And she always had a notebook, and I suppose a lot of her poems were about her observations. And this one's about spring. And it's so beautiful, I'll read it to you. It's just called Spring. Somewhere a black bear has just risen from sleep and is staring down the mountain. All night, in the brisk and shallow restlessness of early spring, I think of her, her 4 black fists flicking the gravel, her tongue like a red fire touching the grass, the cold water. There is only one question: how to love this world. I think of her rising like a black and leafy ledge to sharpen her claws against the silence of the trees. Whatever else my life is, with its poems and its music and its glass cities, it is also this dazzling darkness coming down the mountain, breathing and tasting. All day I think of her, her white teeth, her wordlessness, her perfect love. Wow. I just love the immediacy of the experience. You could be there with her. And I was thinking about, what the key really to make it, what it was that made Mary tick. And it was said that she'd had a difficult childhood. She hated being indoors. She was lucky to meet the love of her life, a photographer, Molly Malone. And she dedicated a lot of her poems to her, in fact. Now, I had an insight in one of her, Molly Malone Cook was her partner. I ought to get that correct. And this is a real insight, I think, into why Mary walked and walked and walked in nature with her notebook and wrote all these poems outside. And this is what she says: adults can change their circumstances. Children cannot. Children are powerless, and in difficult situations, They are the victims of every sorrow and mischance and rage around them. For children feel all of these things, but without any of the ability that adults have to change them. Whatever can take a child beyond such circumstances, therefore, is an alleviation and a blessing. And this is Mary writing. I've quickly found for myself two such blessings, the natural world and the world of writing. These were the gates through which I vanished from a difficult place. It's very familiar, isn't it, that? She puts it so well. So she goes on, but you can look these things up yourself and delve into her books. This one is called Wild Geese and Other Poems, and it's published by Blood Axe. And I'd like to read for you a poem called Wild Geese. You may already know it because it's one of her most well-known. And it just touches people so much. So let's just read this one. Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. I just think that's just so wonderful. You can well understand why it is that she's so popular all across the world and means a lot to us, you know. She was particularly fond of dogs, and she always had a dog. And there's a whole collection, actually. You can look it up again if you want. I think it's called Dog Songs. A whole collection of poems that she's written about dogs. And she was so kind of connected, really. Connected with nature, connected with all beings, and particularly connected with animals, with birds, with insects, with reptiles, with flowers, with the sea. So it's almost like being there, you know, when you read these poems. This is where she actually, she tried to see what it was like to actually be a fox. And she wrote this: deep in the woods, I tried walking on all fours. I did it for an hour or so, through thickets, across a field, down to a cranberry bog. I don't think anyone saw me. At the end, I was exhausted and sore, but I had seen the world from the level of the grasses, the first bursting growth of trees, declivities, lumps, slopes, rivulets, gashes, open spaces. I was some slow old fox, wandering, breathing, hitching along, lying down finally at the edge of the bog, under the swirling rick-rack of the trees. Yeah. She says you must not ever stop being whimsical, and you must not ever give anyone else the responsibility for your life. Wow. So I wrote this song, Let Your Heart Sing. I didn't write it for Mary Oliver specifically, but I realised that it's actually very much in keeping. So I'm just going to play it for you now. When you're feeling down, needing that healing sound, take your feet into nature. Let the birds teach you how to sing again. Take your feet into nature. No matter whether sun or rain, let your heart sing, sing. Let your heart sing, let your heart sing. When you're feeling blessed, all the love in your breast, take your feet into nature. No matter whether sun or rain, take your feet into nature. Let your heart sing, sing. Let your heart sing, let your heart sing. When you're bleeding for the world, all the mercy in your heart unfurled, take your feet into nature. Let the birds teach you how to sing again. Take your feet into nature. No matter whether sun or rain, let your heart sing, sing. Let your heart sing, let your heart sing. Yeah, let your heart sing if you possibly can. And I'm just going to finish this broadcast about Mary Oliver Such a wonderful poet. And this is a particular favourite of mine, and we'll finish with this. And it's called The Swan. Across the waters, something comes floating, a slim and delicate ship, filled with white flowers, and it moves on its miraculous muscles, as though time didn't exist, as though bringing such gifts to the dry shore was a happiness, almost beyond bearing. And now it turns its dark eyes, it rearranges the clouds of its wings, it trails an elaborate webbed foot, the colour of charcoal. Soon it will be here. Oh, what shall I do when that poppy-coloured beak rests in my hand? Said Mrs. Blake of the poet. I miss my husband's company. He is so often in paradise. Of course, the path to heaven doesn't lie down in flat miles. It's in the imagination with which you perceive this world, and the gestures with which you honour it. Oh, what will I do, what will I say when those white wings touch the shore? I think that's a beautiful Mary Oliver poem to finish with. And because you've been so good, I'm going to give you a little burst of wind chime. Thank you so much for being with me and sharing Mary Oliver's beautiful poetry and hearing my songs. I'll see you later with another theme, which I've yet to decide on. So it'll be a surprise to you and a surprise to me. So watch out for the next broadcast. Keep safe and keep well. Bye. Bye-bye. And please post a comment, by the way, and maybe give a few likes. That's quite useful. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.